All right, guys. This is Grandpa. And you remember Grandpa very well.
Uh-huh.
We used to visit him all the
I
time.
used to jump on him.
We used to jump on him.
There he is.
Now, Grandpa was a little different in a lot of ways. He wasn't afraid to move around and take the family. It wasn't for him, we wouldn't have been as exposed to all the different cultures and places that we went. Not that it was anywhere exotic, but we were in the South, mostly Mississippi, Louisiana, Georgia. But he made a different life for us. Got away from farming and ranching. And I'm very grateful for that. Taught me not to be afraid. Even though I hated leaving the farm, I hated moving around when I was little, making new friends, but it also made me who I am today.
He was born in 1924.
1924 to 2013.
And then he died in 2013.
Yeah, I was there by his bed when he passed away. I remember it rained real heavy that night. He was a good man. He didn't say a lot of things, but when he did, it was usually something that he really meant. Okay, so over here is the Jansen plot. That's where all my mom's family is buried. And over here is George Jansen. Open it up. Which is my uncle and your great uncle.
That's what he looked like?
And he had a little business. He had a little store in the neighborhood. And he was married to Tencha, or Hope Rivas, and Rivera. And
He was born in 1912 and then he died in 1960.
he died before I was born. But he also was like me. He worked for the federal government there at Kelly Air Force Base. Okay, this is Hortensia. Oh, we used to call her Tencha. She was my aunt. Go ahead, open it up. She was married to George, my uncle. She was a very strict woman, very strong woman. She had to be because everybody around her was dying. She lost her husband. She lost her daughter within a year to cancer. And the only son she had left was George Jr., which is buried here also. And she could make the best tamales I ever had.
Really?
She died having a surgery in Victoria. Okay, now this is Delia, they used to call her. She died before I was born. She also died of cancer. And this is George and Tencha's daughter. My understanding, she was very beautiful, and she was about to get married. She was engaged at the time, and she also worked for the federal government, I think. I don't know much about her, other than she was really pretty. Okay, this is George. This is the youngest one of the family of George Sr. Well, actually, George Sr. is actually George Jr. because he was named after my grandfather. But anyway, this is the son. And he worked for the federal government also. And he was in the National Guard, U.S. Army. He was a character. Pretty much said some pretty rough stuff, but he was a good guy.
And he was born in 1935 to 2000.
Whatever the stone says is what happened. And he also passed away in 2008. This is my uncle, Uncle Henry. He worked on the farm all his life. He was a farmer, rancher, mechanic.
Really?
He's Cousins Henry's dad. And he was a simple man and a very hard worker. He could work all day long. I don't know how he did it, but that's what he was used to doing. So he kept doing it as long as he could. And he died in surgery too. Heart complications. Very common in the Jansen family. Good man, simple man. Honest.
And
Okay, so this is grandfather Jansen. He came from Germany, and he bought the farm and married my grandmother, and they had all these kids. And he's the one that started it all. He taught everybody in the family English and math, and he would give school at the farmhouse. And my mom said he would have like flashcards and show them, how to say different words and do math and make them do math problems.
did he teach you how to speak Spanish?
He taught himself how to speak Spanish. He was a very independent person. My understanding, he wasn't very friendly, kind of rigid, very typical of Germans. And but he did care. He took care of a lot of people. He took in people that didn't have parents or that they lost their parents, and he had them there at the farm, working at the farm. A lot of people lived at the farm at those times, and he would take in people. So there's a lot to say about him, and I'll tell you later, but he was a good man. All right, this is Uncle Rudy. He never married, he never had kids, worked at the farm his entire life. Very nice man. Can't say anything bad about him. He always wore the sunglasses because when he was a little kid, his head got crushed. He got run over by a vehicle, and he had a split in his head, and his eyes were kind of crooked, cross-eyed. Would you be? He was very conscious of it, and he always wore the sunglasses. That's how you saw him all the time. Hard worker. He was a very heavy-set man, and he had a grip like an iron vice. If he ever get a hold of you, he was so strong. Just the strength will make you crumble. His grip was so strong. He died there at the farm, by the farmhouse, actually, where we were at, by that shed where that woman lived.
Mm-hmm.
He was unloading some hay, and he had a heart attack. And he died right there. And, he was a good man.
So there's 1920.
All right, so this is Patrick. As you can see by the dates, he didn't live very long. What's that, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old? Yeah, he was about 8 years old. He died of leukemia. It's a blood disease. I think it's cancer related. He was very young. I was his uncle. This is Theo's son and Patty's son. It was very sad. He died very young.
How old was he when he died?
He was 8.
Oh, he was about Vivi's age.
Yep. So he's in heaven now. Okay, if you notice, our plots here are the only ones that have a non-Hispanic name. Jansen's is German. Everybody around us is Spanish. You have to remember, back in these days, people didn't mix together as much as they do now. It's called prejudices. And things are better now. But, you know, we just didn't fit in because of our mixed race.
How are you guys Hispanic?
Because we are Hispanic. And we are part of...
Our last name Alvarez?
Yes, that's our last name.
I just heard.
But our grandmother has a different name. That's her maiden name, is Jansen. Just let you know, at the time there was a lot of differences between people, and it still is. Probably always will be. Just the way it is. It might get better.